All right, hello all. Welcome to today's Creatio user group, where we'll be discussing the new homepages, features, and dashboards. If you've if you've been with us before, you know our spiel. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm just going to start off with a quick bit of info on who we are. So my name is Deneen Madura. I'm the Director of Marketing. And with me today, we have Megan Sheehan, our Director in PMO, and Ari Nauster, our developer. And so we all are obviously employees of Technology Advisors, which is a digital transformation and CRM consulting company out of Chicago with more than 30 years of experience. We are a level 5 Creatio partner, and that's the highest tier achievable in their partner network. We like to believe that a big part of that is because of our mentality and how we support our customers. So our motto here at TAI is we listen, we personalize, we stay with you. And we try to live by that. Our goal is to help businesses find and successfully implement the tools that they need to grow and increase their profitability. But it's not really just about implementing the solution. We really want to ensure long-term success. And that's why we also offer training, customization, support, integration, and free educational opportunities like this one you're at right now. That's where the stay of that motto comes into play, if you will. So if you enjoy and see value in the content that we're providing today, make sure that you're following us on our Twitter, which is right underneath Megan's name there, @TechADV, and also on LinkedIn, and you'll stay informed on all of our upcoming Creatio related events, and then some. Maybe you'll discover some new events that you're excited about. We do these user groups every other month, and so the next user group that we do will be in August. But for now, we really want to get into that homepage info. So I'm going to pass the floor over to Megan and Ari to take us through the agenda.
All right, great. Thanks, Deneen. So today we are focusing on the new homepage functionality that Creatio introduced in the latest 7.18 release. Many of you have probably already seen the new homepages in your Creatio environments as you've been upgraded. If you haven't been upgraded yet, you can probably expect that to be coming soon. So we're going to start with talking about some of the basics of homepages. We'll go through how to edit homepages, and then also talk a little bit about where homepages fit into the analytics sphere in Creatio. We now have homepages and dashboards and section dashboards. So we want to share a few thoughts about where to best use each of these interesting new tools, or not new tools, but tools. And then, of course, we'll talk about what else is new in the latest release.
Okay, so what you're seeing now is on the left there, of course, is a screen that you're probably really familiar with. It's usually the first screen that you see when you log into Creatio. On the right is a screenshot of their new home pages. There's one per workspace. Homepage basics, each workplace has a homepage. Default homepages will be applied at upgrade, and we'll go over that a little bit more in a second. When setting up a new workplace, you can choose to use an existing homepage or create a new one. For now, only system administrators can edit homepages. Homepage functionality is roughly similar to dashboards. So if you've created some widgets in your dashboard sections before, shouldn't be too hard to you should be pretty familiar with it. And for now, it's not accessible on mobile, although Creatio did tell us that it's possibly on their roadmap. So if you've been upgraded, you've seen this before. If not, this is an example of the sales homepage. All of the out-of-the-box workplaces will have its own homepage. So basically a big picture view of what's going on with sales, since we're on the sales homepage here. Pretty good widgets considering this is all just out of the box. So you've got a breakdown of your opportunities and leads, what's in your sales pipeline. I feel like the services one is actually really helpful as far as like getting a big picture view of what's going on with cases. These nice donut charts are pretty great as far as displaying the values as you mouse over them. In all of the out-of-the-box workplaces, each one of these has a dashboard section. So what I wanted to point out here is with home pages, Studio now actually has a home page. If you're a system administrator, this is actually pretty nifty, especially looking at expiring licenses or processes that might have failed, tracking the busiest parts of the day as far as like how much user activity and processes are going. But let's say you have a custom workspace. So it's something that you created, and these obviously don't come with home pages by default. What you can do is go to the system designer and then go to the workplace setup, go to your custom workspace, and you'll see a new field here called home page. You can either click on the drop down and select one that already exists if one of them just happened to fit your needs. Click on the plus sign to create a brand new one. You can work from scratch, or you can select one of the existing ones and copy it. When you copy it, you'll click on this top gear here to change the name of it. Note that you cannot change the user code on these, but what it does is just append a string of characters onto the copy so you can tell it apart from the original, I mean. So you just save that here. Should just take a minute or two. So now we see under my custom workplace, there's now a home page. Oops, I didn't want to do that there. Cancel. Actually, I better refresh this page because it's a different tab. And now we have our custom page here. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Megan to talk about editing home pages.
Great. And Ari, can you stop sharing so I can share my screen?
All right, there you go.
Thank you. Okay, so editing home pages, as Ari had mentioned, is currently limited to system administrator users. So the system, and that makes sense because it's a shared page among, every user who's using a workspace. So it makes sense to have that be a system administrator function. If you have system administrator rights, you're going to notice that the gear button has a new function in it. When you're looking at a home page, you'll see an option now to edit the home page from there. When you're editing a home page, you can do things like removing a widget that's on there, editing a widget, adding new widgets, resizing things and reordering them, moving them around on the page. And I'm going to do one more slide and then jump over to Creatio and show you how to do all of those things. For this initial rollout of home pages, these are the types of widgets that are currently available. So these are primarily chart widgets. You can see we've got spline, line, bar, donut, area, column, and scatter chart capabilities. Those are all going to work pretty similarly to what you've probably done before in terms of setting up charts on your dashboards. So the same functions that you're used to using, it'll actually have the same interface you'll see when we get into that. Metrics, again, very similar to the metric capability from your dashboards that you already have. And then the sales pipeline, again, very much like your current sales pipeline widget on your dashboards. So really just taking those types of widgets, updating them to a little bit new front end user experience, giving you a few more options in terms of visualization, which we'll see, but taking that same functionality and making it available on your homepage. You might notice a couple of dashboard widget types are not listed on this list yet. Specifically, the ones that I use frequently that I don't see here are list widgets and gauge widgets. Those are not yet supported for home pages. They do have plans to add those in upcoming releases. So you will see those available for home pages at some point down the line. All right, so let's go ahead and get to it. Here's my homepage in Creatio, and I'll go ahead and just work with the sales one. And when I click my gear button, here's that new function that I'm seeing. So as long as I'm on a home page, I'm going to see this edit page function. If I was on a different page, it would just go straight to the system designer as previously. So I'm going to go ahead and edit my page. It'll pop up a new tab for me here with my page on it. And one of the first things you'll probably notice if you're, again, used to working with the dashboard designer in Creatio is how much easier it is to move things around and change the size of things. So you can just drag and drop things in different places. You can drag and drop to change the size of things if you want something to be bigger or smaller. So much easier than that old dashboard designer was. So that is a really nice, small but powerful improvement. As you want to change what your dashboard looks like, maybe make some things a little bit bigger, like these numbers are getting cut off here, and just kind of make it look the right way for your users. And by the way, they're aware about those cutoff numbers and planning to fix that as well. So they'll have some sort of function there that will auto resize or have a smaller font or something to make that a little bit more user friendly. Now, those default home pages that Creatio is using as a starting point, as Ari said, they're great, but they're generic. They had to just come up with something that uses only standard Creatio fields, and you may or may not be using those fields or functions. So there may be some functions used in some of these, default dashboards that just don't apply to your business and your Creatio configurations. And so if there's anything on the dashboard that you don't want to keep, you can go ahead and just click the little trash button, click on one of the widgets, and then click the trash button to remove that particular widget from your dashboard. So really easy to go through and say, we don't use this function or that function. Let's go ahead and remove that widget. You can also edit any existing widget. So let's say I want to change something about one of these guys. I can go ahead and just click on it and then click the gear button to pop up the widget settings. Again, if you've used the dashboard tool in Creatio before, this probably looks pretty familiar to you. This part of the screen really has not changed at all. It is the exact same widget designer that you're used to. Really the only new functions that are here are some of these style functions up here at the very top. So you've got options for controlling the color of this top background bar there. If you want something a little bit different, you can pick different colors there. And you've also have a couple different style options for kind of how much color it has to it. So again, just kind of choosing what makes sense for your users, for your preferences, for how that looks. And we can go ahead and save that and see that change. I've also found the editing function to be really helpful just for kind of taking a deeper dive into some of these default reports. Some of them, it's really obvious what they are right off the bat, like the number of open leads. That's, pretty self-explanatory. Others, maybe not so much. What does total opportunity amount mean? Is it only things that I've won? Is it what's in my pipeline? Is it things just for a certain time period? If I want to answer any of those questions, I can go ahead and go to the settings of that widget and see exactly what that widget is set up to do. So here I've got my metric settings, and I can see that this is pulling from the opportunities table, which is what I expected. It's doing a total of the opportunity amounts, again, what I was expecting from the name of it. But what I wasn't sure about was the filtering. And so here I can see exactly what those filter criteria are. They're currently filtering it to just the current year based on the close date. So it is only things that I have closed won. And it's only things from this year. So that filter criteria becomes really important for me to understand exactly what that widget is telling me. And of course, I could come in here and change this. Maybe I don't want only the current year. Maybe I want a longer time period or a shorter time period, like just the current quarter. I could go ahead and I could change that filter criteria to whatever my desired criteria was, add more conditions and so on. You've also got some options here for your formatting and your font size. Here's where this might be one place they kind of fix this cutoff widget issue by making a smaller font size instead of just a larger one. We'll see exactly how they choose to tackle that. But you can also do some different formatting. For example, if you do or don't want digits after your decimal point, you can change that setting here in the formatting. If you want to put a dollar sign in front of this just to make it even clearer that these are dollar values, you can also go ahead and put a dollar sign in front of that zero symbol. That is where the actual value is going to go. And we'll go ahead and add that to your widget as well. So let's go ahead and save that. And if we are going to add a new metric to our dashboard, we just find the metric widget over here on the side, drag and drop it out where we want it to be. And we can resize it and then do the settings, or do the settings and then resize it, whatever makes more sense. So we'll make that a little bigger and use our gear button to put some settings in here. So let's do total pipeline amount. So whereas the other one was just things that were closed, we'll do everything that's in our pipeline, which may or may not be an existing widget, but that's okay. Choose what color we want. More importantly, choose where this data is going to come from and what our filter criteria are. So we're going to use our opportunity object. And just like the other one, we're going to do a sum of our opportunity amount. And by the way, if you're not sure what you're looking for in your columns, you can always pop up the list of all of your columns to see what all your options are. And let's go ahead and filter this by stage. Again, you could scroll through your list if you're not sure what you're looking for. So I'm going to exclude my closed opportunities. I just want to know what's in my pipeline right now. So we'll go ahead and filter out some of these closed stages. Let's go ahead and put that $sign in here as well. And we can save that. And we've got our new widget there with our total pipeline amount. Doing a chart is pretty similar. So let's go ahead and add a, I'm just going to scroll down here to the bottom, have some space. Let's add a column chart. Let's do the number of accounts created each year by month. We want to see how many accounts were created each month. So we'll go ahead and edit our settings here. And accounts created by month, give it a name. Give it, we'll choose our object. So this is obviously going to be the account object. And we are counting, so we don't need to pick a sum of anything. We just want to do a count. It's already defaulted in my column type or my chart type of column because that's the type of widget I chose. And I want to group it by the created on date. Now, when you're grouping on a date field, you have a variety of options for what sort of time period you want. I'll go ahead and do month and year. And then I'm going to filter this because I only want to see this year. I don't need to see accounts that were created 2-3 years ago. That's no longer relevant to me. So we're going to filter on that created on date and go ahead and choose the current year. So I can now see how many accounts have been created in my system throughout the year. So we'll go ahead and save that. Again, if you've played with charts or created charts before on your dashboard, this probably all looks pretty familiar. It is exactly the same process. There are some nice examples in here. If you have not previously worked with charts that have multiple series, as they call them, multiple bars or multiple graphs on them, there's some really great examples of that in here. And that's a really nice function. Where's the one I wanted? This one. So let's go ahead and edit that and take a look at how that's set up, and then we'll create one from scratch so you can see that. So here we can see that we actually have 3 different tabs here in our chart options, 1 tab for each series. And so we have separate settings for each of these 3 different categories on our report: our created, our closed one, lost, and our closed one. Now, they each have the same grouping criteria, and that's really important because we need our data to kind of work together here. We couldn't have one grouping by year and another one grouping by month, for example, or we wouldn't be able to show them side by side. So when you are grouping, or when you are using multiple series, it is important that your grouping values work together. Now, these may or may not all be the same date field, but they're all at least going to be month and year date groupings. So we can see our opportunities created series, no surprise, is using our opportunity date created and grouping by that date. It is filtered to the current year. and it's doing a total of the dollars, which is what I would have guessed, at least if I wasn't sure, looking at just the amounts that were here. It's also right there in the name giving me that hint. Now, when I look at my closed lost, looks like they are still using the created on date. They could have been using, say, the closed on date if they wanted. They might use that closed one, I'm not sure. And here again, we're doing a total dollars, only this time we're filtering not only by the year, but also by the stages closed lost. So what's everything we've created this year? When did we create it, and have that we've lost already? And then finally, our closed one. They were consistent. They used the created on date for all three of these. Again, same idea, total dollars, but filtered by stages closed one. So that's how they're getting these three different values shown on that chart, is by having three different series in the chart settings. And so we can create something like that as well. Let's go ahead and do a column chart. And I'm going to do a chart showing activities created by month and grouping by different categories of activity. Activities created by month. So the easiest way to set this up is to start by doing the first one, obviously, but also focusing on the stuff that's going to be shared in common across them, because there is a function in here to copy one series as you're adding the new one. So you don't have to add them from scratch if they're sharing a lot of the same settings. So my chart's going to be based on the activity object. I'm going to count how many activities have been created, and I'm going to group by that created on date. And I'll do month and year again. And I am going to filter to the current year as well. Whoops, created on equals current year. And then what I want to do is I want to break these down by categories. So we'll go ahead and just set up our first one. Let's say the first category is going to be calls. So these are only going to be our calls. We can then copy this to create our second series. We're going to have to go back and name that because I forgot to do that. But we'll go ahead and create our second series. And this one will be, instead of calls, emails. So you can now see the difference between the two different series that I've set up. Let's give this another color so it stands out a little bit. And I can never remember where to name these, so you're going to watch me do a little trial and error here. Yeah, I didn't think that was it. I think it's up here at the top. So I believe it is one of these boxes. Nope, not that one. Like I said, it's always a little bit of trial and error on this one, and I forgot to try this out. Maybe it was this one down here at the bottom. Let's see. Oh, yes, it was. I take it back. They made it more obvious. That's good. So this is calls, that's meetings. Perfect. All right, so we can copy that one and do, that was not actually meetings though, was it? It was emails. This one is going to be meetings. Again, we'll give this a different color. Whoops. Okay, hold on. I missed my tab there. So here's our email tab, filtered to email, labeled email. Here's our meetings tab, filtered to meetings, labeled meetings. Perfect. And then we've got, I think, two more categories here. So we can do paperwork. And then we can do to do. So you can see that's not too terrible set up. Oh, I need to do a couple more colors here. I forgot to change my colors on those last couple. Let's do some of these blues maybe. Again, I think the trick here is, first of all, starting with what your shared and common filters are, especially if your criteria was maybe a little bit more complicated than just current year. Do that first, and then you can copy over and over again and just change what's different. And we'll go ahead and save that. And here's our chart. I believe I missed a setting to have it show the legend on here. Let me go back in and find that. Here we go, show the legend. So we'll show the legend for all of these different types. Again, if I'd remembered to check that the first time, I wouldn't have had to do it 5 times. There we go. And now we've got our nice little chart here. And when we're done, of course, we're just going to save the page. Once we do that, we are then changing it live in the system, just like any of your other section wizard page type changes. So if we come back over here and refresh the page, we're going to see all of those changes that we made. And so would all of our users. Obviously, I left some blank space that I probably want to go back and clean up. But there's your new charts down here at the bottom. Our new metric was up here in this green right here at the top. So pretty easy to go in and make changes. And again, if you've spent much time using Creatio, you've probably created and edited dashboards before, and it's very much the same process. It's very familiar feeling if you've done that. If you've got any specific questions about home pages, feel free to throw those in the Q&A or the chat boxes. We'd be happy to try to answer those. I did want to take a few minutes to talk about kind of just thinking through where does this fit into the framework of the tools we already have available. So we already had a dashboard section as well as dashboards within each section. And now we've got home pages on top of that. So what do you use for what? Where do I put my reports that I want? The first thing that I would think about is keep in mind your limitations. So home pages have 1 page per workplace. They don't yet support lists or drill down, and they are not yet accessible on mobile. Lists and drill down are definitely on the roadmap. Mobile, they're still thinking through, but it's a probable. But at least for the time being, those are going to be important considerations for where you're going to build something. Dashboards, the dashboard section is available on mobile. So that's something important there. And then the section dashboards, the dashboards inside of a particular section, have that great flexibility of being able to use filters and folders for more dynamic reporting. So just to kind of show you in the product, these different terms I'm throwing around really quick. My dashboard section is when I click on the dashboards link here, and I've got these different dashboard tabs that I can click through and that I can share with different users on an as needed basis. Dashboards within a section, if I go into a particular section, I can click to my dashboards view. I was already there, but this is kind of your default view is the list view. If you go into your dashboards, this is what I was referring to here as my section dashboards. And again, what's really nice about these is I can use my filters. So I could go ahead and filter these to a specific folder, or using my dynamic filtering to build out a filter that I'm looking for. And I'm going to see those reports update every time I change that filter criteria. So when I'm looking for something more dynamic where I want to be able to compare one group to another, those section dashboards are really helpful for that. And so keeping those things in mind, if I'm making decisions about where to build a particular report, I'm going to be thinking about what's the purpose of that report, who is the audience of the report, and again, those functional differences or limitations. Things that I would tend to put on a homepage are going to be those key KPIs, key performance indicators that are going to apply to everyone on a team, because that homepage is shared with everyone who uses that workspace. So if it's something that is important for everybody, those are the things that I want to put on my homepage. If it's something that I know people want to be able to use on their mobile app, well, then I know I need to put that in the dashboards, because that's right now the only one of these 3 tools that's available on mobile. If it's a report that needs that dynamic filtering capability, then I know I'm going to put it in my section dashboards. Anything else, I'm probably choosing between my dashboards and my section dashboards. Again, my homepage to me is going to be only those key top level metrics that apply to everybody. Something that's more specific or for a subset of my users, I'm going to be thinking dashboards. and I'm going to be either thinking my main dashboards or my section dashboards, primarily depending on the scope. Is it something that's specific to one section, or is it some sort of cross-sectional view that has 2 or 3 reports on it that maybe pull from different areas like leads and opportunities, and just throws together those multiple views on the same screen? So those are kind of the things that I think through when I'm making that determination of where a particular report makes sense. Shoot, I'm having one of those moments where I had something that popped in my head mid-slide and I totally forgot it. Oh, is it going to come back to me? Maybe not, although this is not what my thought was, but I do have one other thought that I want to share, which is I could see the new homepage functionality being a driver for people setting up more workplaces inside of Creatio. I think a lot of times many of our customers will choose to have 1 or 2 general workplaces that apply to all of their users, as opposed to setting up different workplaces for each team. I think having this homepage functionality might be a game changer in that regard, where you might start to have, you know, one workplace for this team and a different workplace for that team that maybe even have all of the same sections in them, just because those different teams want different home pages. So just something that you can keep in mind and use as a lever there is you can have more workplaces. Like Ari was showing you, it's really easy to set up a new workplace, share it with a group of users, and then set up a homepage on it. So I think that's really a good option to keep in mind. All right, I'm not seeing any questions coming in so far. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Ari to talk about some of the other new features in the 7.18 release.
Thanks, Megan. So with version 7.18, there's a bunch of new stuff, but some of the more notable things are homepages, obviously, machine learning improvements, streamlining training and increasing transparency to better understand prediction results, marketing improvements, such as the ability to set email sending schedules and priority, and throttling them to warm up a cold email list, updated campaign analytics UI to make reporting clearer. This one's really cool, the ability to save elements in campaign flow to reuse them elsewhere or in the same or other campaigns. Now you don't have to configure the same thing over and over and over again. And also added support for WhatsApp in chat.
All right, last chance for romance if you have any questions. But meanwhile, I'd like to remind everyone I will send you the recording of this presentation so you have it. And if you're ever looking for past user group recordings, we always have them on our Technology Advisors website, and we also have them on our YouTube page. They'll all be grouped together in a little folder, if you will, on the YouTube page. So you can always go back and reference those, but I will send it to you just to make it easy. And of course, if you think of questions later and you want to ask our team, you can just reply to that email and I will direct your question to the person that's appropriate to answer it. But I want to thank Megan and Ari for doing an awesome job. I want to thank you all for your time today. And as I mentioned earlier, we do these every other month. So the next one we'll be doing will be in August, so stay tuned.